Hey, Jason from Pro Guitar Studio here today to talk about fingerpicking. Now, usually when we hear fingerpicking, we think about a classical style or maybe a folk style like Travis picking. We're going to talk today about something a little more modern, but I also use in jazz and different styles of music. And I'm going to go through a few different techniques that I use personally on a day-to-day basis. So I wrote a piece of music using fingerpicking styles that I use all the time. So let's listen right here, and then we'll talk about all three parts. Okay, so keep in mind as you work through this, you don't need to do all three. You can just do one, or you can do two, you can do three, whatever works for you, and you can do them all separately. But I'm going to play them one at a time in the example here. Okay, so let's take a listen. All right, so now that we've heard the piece, what we want to look at are the three different sections I've created for this. So the first part is a bass note section, which basically goes between some power chords and a small riff. And I'm using my thumb and my index finger back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to use my thumb on string 6 on the 7th fret, so a B note. And I go to the 5th interval, which is a power chord shape. So we combine those two notes together. And that's the 9th fret on string number 5, okay? F sharp. Now I do the same thing again down here on the 5th fret, so 5 and then 7, so A and E, so it's the root in the 5th. And I'm using my thumb again and my index. Now I'm stopping the sound after that, so like a rest, but you can also slap if you want. And what I'm doing there is I'm hitting with my thumb and my index the nail on the strings, okay? That's optional because the next part we're gonna do will actually focus on that kind of slap sound that I'm gonna show you here. Then we go to the 3rd fret and 5th fret, so G and D, so the root and 5th of the G chord. And then back to the A, which is A and E, so 5 and 7. And again, so thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, with a slap. So it's trying to get that rhythmic feel, right? So 1 and 2 and 1, 3 and 4 and. Actually, the next one comes in early. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So when you see it written down, you're going to see it offset, okay? So with the slap, but without it, just trying to kill the sound. So it doesn't matter if it makes a bit of a mute sound on the string or a dead sound. That's totally fine. So that's our first part. Now the second half of that first part will add a riff. Okay, so we're going to repeat the same thing. So that's our first part. The second time around, when we go to the A, so the 5th fret on string number 6, the second time, instead of going just to the 7th fret on string number 5, we're going to play 7, 5, 4. So that's a nice lead in going back to the B note, okay? Da, 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 boom. So it's a nice, I guess, walking line that goes down to that B. Okay, and that just repeats throughout the whole piece. So a nice loop you can continue through. If you like to use a loop pedal, that can be loop number 1. The second part goes into a more interesting style. And I learned this when I was picking up a bunch of jazz stuff years ago, where I'm basically plucking the strings, and sometimes if we're playing jazz chords, the notes might be on strings that are, we'll say, apart from each other, so not adjacent. But let's say we're picking like this chord here. I'm picking string 6, 4, and 3. So instead of trying to strum it, I would use my thumb, index, and middle to grab onto that. You can arpeggiate it or pluck together. Okay, so the thumb sort of pushing down and my index and middle plucking upwards at the same time. So the hardest thing about that technique is getting an equal volume with each finger. But the first chord we're going to do is a version of a B minor. So we're going to have the 9th fret string 5, 9th fret string 4, and we're going to have the 7th fret string number 3. So this right here, if you looked at a B minor bar chord, this is the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string of that B minor bar chord shape, 6th root. And I'm already playing the root note in the other line, so we don't need to have anything else in it. And I'm just going to play those 3 notes. And again, you might have to work a bit, try to get the volume even, right? So I'm arching my fingers nicely. And the next note I'm going to do, I'm going to grab onto the 2nd string open, which is a B. So that's like a drone tone we can continue throughout. And with that, you can use your ring finger. I'm using my middle, but that makes sense to use your ring. Okay, you pluck it with your ring. And then I'm going to slap the string with my nails. So what I'm doing here is I'm hitting down with my nails to get that nice slap sound against the string. So not only am I hitting right here over the sound hole where the strings bounce off the frets on the acoustic, on the electric it's going to be very hard to get the same kind of sound. The nail sound is what you're going to hear. But that sound, hitting the nails, hitting the strings, plus the strings hitting the frets, gives you a nice percussive element. The next chord, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the 7th fret, 7th fret, and 6th fret, which is a version of an A major bar chord, but we don't need the whole chord. All we need is those 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. It's like an E major chord on the 7th, 7th, and 6th fret. And we're doing the same open string for the slap, right? Then we take this shape down 2 more frets to the 5, 5, and 4. And same thing. And then back to the 2nd shape, the A major. So we have this. Might be hard to see my fingers. Hopefully you can see them there. We have this. This. Version of a G. Back to an A. With that drone tone afterwards. So drone tone, then a slap. Second time around, to match up with that walking bass line, I'm going to change the chord. And the chord shape I'm doing here is, thinking of, as I was writing it, an F sharp minor, but underneath it, because we have the A bass note, we're basically playing an A major 6. Okay, so sort of a funky shape here. We're playing the 4th fret, string 5, 4th fret, string 4, and 2nd fret, string number 3. And same thing, using that B note as a drone tone. So we had this. And so because the bass note on the bass and the guitar is an A, we're basically playing that sound. Okay, so it's an A major 6 sound, but with the B, so we have like an A add 6/9 or something in terms of the chord name. I'd have to look at that construction, but yeah, I think A add 6/9 could be a good way to label that. So we have this first part, I guess, slap. Second part. Okay, so all the way throughout, using those fingers to pluck and then slap. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's that technique, and I use that all the time. So whether it's a more jazz influenced piece or something more fingerstyle like this, more on the folk spectrum, I guess. This is not really folk, but you get the idea. It can be used all over, right? So we can play bar chords, chord fragments, all that kind of stuff, while using the thumb, index, and middle to pluck, right? So to pinch. So that technique I use all the time. So that's the second technique. The third one I'm going to do here is single notes. And what I'm going to do to play these single notes, often I'll rest my thumb on the string above that I'm playing. Okay, so the first note in the lead guitar part is the 4th fret, string 3. And the rhythm I'm doing is like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 at a fast pace. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm going to play the 4th fret 3 times, and I'm alternating my index and middle to pick these notes. A lot of people like to use their thumb, but just to show what I'm doing, I'm alternating those two fingers. My thumb is blocking string 4, so I don't hit it accidentally, and my index finger is also blocking out the other string, so it gives it a really nice clean sound. And I'm going to slap to fret number 11. So a lot of this is done on one string for the most part, just sort of try to get a nice vocal sound, like sliding across the strings. And then we go, so 4, 11, 9, twice, to the 7th fret, and then we're going to play 6, 7, 6 to the 7th fret, string number 4. So we have B, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, D, C sharp, A. Second time around, same first 2 notes, so 4 and 11. and then 9, 7, 6 with the trill. So the trill is basically where I'm playing the 6th fret. And I'm going to hammer on fret number 7 with the middle finger over and over. And then slide out at the end just to kill it. So when you feel like the sound is sort of waning, you slide out. Alright, so one more time. And as a note there, when I played the 7th fret, string number 4, I used my thumb. So everything else is index and middle, back and forth. 3rd time. Same as the 1st time, okay? And then the 4th time, the 4th repetition. 4th fret twice, or 3 times. Same rhythm. And then the 4th fret, string number 4, twice, to 7, back to 4. And for that, I'm using my thumb. So my thumb is sort of anchored on that 4th string. That's like the low string that I'm using for this. So I'll just use my thumb for that. You could use your index finger. So index and middle can be used, your thumb can be used, whatever works for you. But alternating these two fingers is a really effective way to get a nice, still soft, but it can be a little crisper than just using your thumb. Right? The thumb can be a little dull. Also, it's good because you can alternate. You can play faster than if you try to use just your thumb alone. So as you follow through, I'll play this one more time slowly. So the solo one more time slowly. As you work through it, just keep all the styles in mind. These are just like, a few styles that are out there that you can use to incorporate into your playing. But it gives you something different than the classical fingerstyle or the Travis picking, right? So like where we're using a chord and just alternating our fingers, thumb is bouncing back and forth. The classic folk style finger strumming. This here, we're doing things a little bit different, but in a way, a lot of, I guess, more modern music can be suited if you use these kind of techniques, okay? These techniques will suit modern styles. So as I go through the lead guitar part again. All right, so those are the 3 parts. And in the example, you can just follow through. I'm just playing them one at a time, but you could work on each part separately. All students here get access to the full backing track with all the parts on there. The tablature for every single section there. So we have 3 different parts, or 3 different finger style parts. You can layer it on your loop pedal, whatever works for you. But if you have any questions, feel free to write in the comments below. But subscribe. I'll do videos like this every week. So I'll see you next week.